I believe when you read about Lucifer's fall, I will ascend into heaven. I will be like the Most High God. I will ascend into the sides of the north. And God said, no, you'll be brought down to the sides of it. I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. That was the rebellion, right? I believe that there was the original earth before Genesis 1 and 2, that was the Luciferian flood, the creation of hell. Hell was prepared for the devil and his angels. It says nothing about man because man wasn't created then.
Hey, this is Rick Renner, and I'm at the National Religious Broadcasters. And today I'm doing interviews, and I'm about to interview one of my favorite people. I am a major, major fan, and I'm talking about Perry Stone. Perry, I think you're one of the smartest guys I know.
Are you really serious?
I do. I watch your program
brother,
like on the edge of my seat because I never know what's going to come out.
That is so precious. That really means a lot to me because I'm going to tell you who you are. You're the greatest Greek scholar on the planet.
Oh, I'm not.
Yes, you are. I did a commentary on the entire Bible. You know, we were talking about it last night. You know, the Old Testament's that thick.
Your Bible is beautiful.
So my New Testament, you know, the Greek was kind of checked by Dr. Arrington, Lee University, who's great. But Rick, you know how to this is what I love. I'm going to talk to you for a minute. I'm going to interview you. What I love about your ministry is that you are able to take a scripture or chapter, but let's say a scripture. You can break down every original word in the Koine Greek language, what it means, then give the history of the word.
That's important.
Oh, yeah. And then you'll go back and give the history of the history. And I know very few people can do that. You know, I invited you. I wanted to do this earlier. End of April, we have our International Prophetic Summit. The greatest prophecy teachers, in my opinion, are there in Cleveland, Tennessee, Wednesday night all the way through Sunday morning. And I invited you to come. And when I have announced it, I had a relative whose background is Church of Christ. And when I say relative, married my wife's sister. And when I said you were coming, they said, I've got to come to that. That is the man I listen to more. You know, he said, nobody knows, and I mean this, when you want to take the New Testament especially, nobody knows more about it historically and how it fits together than you. And I really appreciate your ministry.
Well, Perry,
and I've been following you for at least 30 years. At least 30.
Well, I could just say ditto.
I mean, you know, it's like.
I mean, I'm online every week watching what you put out.
Wow.
And I told you at dinner last night, your titles, I mean, you are the master of titling things.
I think it's just a kind of creative gift. It's just something that I've always kind of had.
Harry, you know.
It's funny, though, because somebody will write me, I have friends that will say, I'm writing a book or I have a sermon, and I say, what's it about? And, you know, one person wrote me and said, I'm going to preach on Samson and Delilah, but I don't want to call it Samson and Delilah. I said, call it a cheap haircut in the devil's barbershop. And the guy said, oh my God, I love it. I love it. I love it. So he preached on a cheap haircut. And the reason I do titles is it has been proven that if you don't get a congregation or someone listening to you, their attention, probably the first 25 seconds, you really may lose them because the culture now is move quick. You know, a YouTube video, let's go to the next one. Commercials every, 13 minutes. So we're so geared to our mind being interrupted. So if you don't catch them with that, and that's why I use titles a lot of times.
Well, I think you're the master.
Thank you.
You know, when I listen to you, I really feel like, Harry, I think you're like a genius.
Really?
You are really brilliant.
Wow.
And you have certain messages. I told you about one last night.
Yeah.
Where you preached on Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right.
I will never forget that program.
Wow.
And what you shared on that program, I have looked for. And last night you told me where to find it.
After you should have texted me.
And I'm like an archivist.
Right.
I chronicle historical data, and that's really what you do.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're able to put it all together and make it sense for right now.
Let me tell you, if I were doing a ministers' conference right now and I were to say to ministers, they were to say to me, tell me a key when it comes to preaching a message. there's two things I would tell you from experience. Number one is feed yourself first.
Absolutely.
The key to pastoring or evangelizing or teaching is I have to get up every day and teach me something that I did not know. So my goal, whether I'm writing a book or whether I'm preparing for a conference, is I want to teach myself something that I did not know that day. So to do that, you have to research.
And you got to research a lot when you know a lot.
That's yes, because you know so much here, but you've got to say, I want to know. The second thing, I said two things. The second thing I would say to a minister is, and those of you watching who love to study, ask questions. When you read, you look at a word, you say, what does that word really mean in the Greek or the Hebrew? Because it can be different.
It can.
The meaning can be
It
different.
can.
Ask yourself questions consistently, because that's how you learn, is by research and asking questions. And I would say the third thing for a speaker is what you just mentioned. I was talking to the men last night, you and Joseph Z and some of the brothers that were there, and I said, they did a course at school years ago, and it was called Home Ec for Boys, Home Ec for Boys 101. Nobody took the course. They took the same course and called it Bachelor Living 101, and 200 boys signed up for it.
Just because of the name.
Because of the name. Same content, same everything. Amazing Grace used to have a name that long, and nobody was singing it. They simply changed it to Amazing Grace, and it's a hymn that the whole world knows in the Christian world. And so it's very important that when you are preparing to minister, and this is just something I've learned. I have a mentoring school for ministry we do every July now. We're back to doing it again. And these are some of the things we teach people is you have to grip the imagination, the mind of a person up front. And so that's one of the things but make sure if you have an unusual title, it matches your message. I don't know, maybe we're talking to pastors here. I don't know, maybe this is a little leadership conference or something.
Well, I want to ask you about your book.
Sure.
It's called Children of the Apocalypse.
Yes, right.
Protocols for Flourishing Spiritually and Practically in the Last Days. Tell me about this book, and why did you write this book?
In the beginning of the book, I tell a story.
And you wrote it with your son.
Yes, and Jonathan, my son, who was in alcohol and drug addiction for 20 years, God opened up his understanding, and I'm telling you, he is amazing.
So what you told me last
Nobody's
night.
going to believe it. When they read this and they read the last 4 chapters, nobody's going to, if they know my son, they said, how did he do it? And he actually wrote it. This wasn't some presentation with a computer. And he's got great insight and revelation. But here's how the book begins. A family saved the world.
A family saved
Saved the world. It was Noah. But in sacred Jewish history, and we give the quotes, we do the sources, we talk about how that in Noah's day, according to the sacred history, he knew, let me backtrack. Adam was told, according to Josephus, the Jewish historian, that there was going to be a destruction of the earth 2 times. The first time was to be by water. The second time was to be by fire. Adam told Seth. Seth's descendants recorded it in stone. Josephus says...
This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This is what I love about you.
Yeah, Josephus said that stone was in brick and rock. It is in the land of Syria to this day. He wrote that in about 66, 67 AD, perhaps, maybe earlier. But he knew this stone existed that dated back to Adam's son Seth. Adam was told the flood was coming. That's why Enoch named his son Methuselah. Met is death. You have a vav, that letter vav there, selah means to thrust in, throw in, has a can have a water connotation to it, doesn't have to have. So Enoch at 60, I'm about to preach here.
That's good.
So Enoch at 65, it says, started walking with God. Now, we don't believe the book of Enoch is like an inspired book like the Bible.
But it's commentary.
It's a commentary. It's just a commentary like Josephus would be a commentary. In there, it talks about how that Enoch was taken to heaven about age 65. God showed him everything that was going to happen, including the destruction. At 65, Methuselah is born. He names his son, basically, when he dies, you will be thrust into it, or it will come. In the book of Genesis, Methuselah dies the week of the flood. That's why there's 7 days, everything is ready, and God said 7 days will cause it to rain. He had to mourn for Methuselah 7 days. That's a Jewish mourning, is 7 days normally. Now, Noah was 480, and he was never going to be married. He didn't want to be married. And so the Lord spoke to him and visited him and said, I'm going to save you and those and your family, and because I'm going to destroy the earth the way I told Adam. At 480, God says to him, man, this is in Genesis, man's days will be 120.
That's right.
Now, if you look at that, Noah said, I got 120 years to do something. So he marries at 480, has 3 sons. If you read it in Hebrew, they were triplets. It wasn't one son 5 years later. No, they literally were born at the same time. Why? Because by 20 years of age, which is the age of the man, there's 120. So let's subtract that 20 to raise the kids. Now he has 100 years to build the ark, right? So in other words, Shem, Ham, and Japheth are born. According to Genesis, is born when the 3 sons are by the time he's 500, we have got 3 sons. Takes 100 years to build the ark. The sons helped him to build the ark, but there was 120 years, and according to the history that you have of that, at 420 he's married, which gave him that extra, years. The sons are born. They build the ark. So I realized at that point, God used a family to save the world. So what we need to do is save the family. And so many families are having difficulties. So many families are having problems. But this book has absolute numerous protocols in it. Now, some of the...
What kind of protocols?
A protocol, for example, I have protocols, instructions, we might say, on... I have a girl that's in her 20s, very protective of her. There are things I have told her to do to protect her, to be careful because of incidents I know, not with her, but other people.
I'm going to read every word of this.
So I put parents, if you have a child in college, here are 4 to 5 things you instruct them to do or not to do. Now, some of it's basic, but parents don't think about it. Then I have church security protocol. My Omega Center International in Cleveland, Tennessee is 72,000 square feet. You're going to preach for us there in April, the end of April. We don't announce this, but it's just a fact. And I said we don't announce it. I'm announcing it now, of course. The SWAT team of Cleveland, Tennessee practices in my building. They know every inch of it. At certain places that we never tell anybody, we have buttons. If someone suspicious comes in my building, a button is hit and the SWAT team shows up with nobody knowing it. They're showing up and nobody knows. Okay, now I'm not going to go into all of our protocols because it would be giving them away. Churches are being attacked. Churches have people coming in. Now, how do you handle somebody who, and we've had it happen, that's a little off in the head, or they were put up to it to come in a church screaming? There are certain things you can and cannot do, and most people don't know that. Third thing, unless you have a security, and I go into more depth, I'm just giving some basics. Unless a local church, all state laws are different, but unless a local church has a police officer or a security person who has a license, then only that person, let's say in Tennessee, can carry the weapon. Most ministries have gone from trying to let security carry weapons to stun guns, which have a whole lot less liability to them than you shooting a gun at someone who's shooting and you miss and kill grandma. People don't put this together. They don't think about it. So what I did, I've got church protocols that a church can know what to do in a security situation, security system. That's just the beginning. I've got family protocols. I've got what to do if there is an emergency and your kids are in school and you're told to leave your town because the chemical plant just exploded. See, people, what about bug out bags? All the stuff.
What about what?
A bug out bag. You know, as people say, well, I'll take whatever comes. There's sometimes you only have a little bit of time to get out. So there are so many protocols in here. Now, another thing that I have in here is what happens at the rapture to a woman carrying a baby, the baby. The baby's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. That's a life in her womb. Does that baby vaporize, or does that baby have a spirit that goes to be with the Lord the moment the woman is
Can you answer that in this?
Yes. Nobody ever touches these subjects. What about miscarriages? I've got a whole thing on what happens at the rapture will you see your mischild, preparing for a breakdown in society. That's another chapter. That's home protection, home protocols.
So when you talk about,
it just goes on and on. There's so much in here I couldn't even.
so children of the apocalypse has to do with us right now.
Yes, but it also does have this emphasis on how do we raise a family? How do we protect our family? I do a whole Hebrew study on morim and horim, which is the Hebrew word for parent and teacher. They're almost identical. Both of that, parent and teacher, an actual teacher, means in Hebrew instructor. And that's why God says, train up a child in the way you should go. When they're old, they're not depart from it. Many times parents sort of we let TV raise our children. We let the movies raise our children. And so many times that 3 to 12 is the most important age for a child, period. Really 3 to 10, but we say 3 to 12. Now, if we don't impart properly in them and go by some of these protocols to say, here's what we're going to do to raise our kids, we will lose our kids by the time they're 18. Society and the world's teachings will infiltrate them to plant the wrong seed. I know Christians that sent their kids to universities and the kids were totally on fire for God, loved Jesus, witnessing to people, and in 4 years they came out atheists because nobody explained to them, how do you deal with evolution? Christians need to explain it. Not that evolution is real, because it's not, but we need to explain it so that our kids are not ignorant. And we're throwing them out there, maybe at university and college age, to wolves, who are people that do not believe what we believe, do not believe in the inspiration of the Scripture. I mean, I have people ask me all the time, where did dinosaurs come from? You know what? Most pastors would say, I don't know and don't really care, because that was a long time ago.
Well, that's the wrong answer.
It's wrong, because they're going to sit in the school where a guy tells them a dinosaur is, 1 billion years old. Okay, I've been taught Adam goes back over 6,000 years. So I have a record of our people, us folks, whether they're Hispanic, whether they're black, whether they're white, we go back that length of time. Well, what about ages past? Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That is ages past. That could have been 4 billion years ago. Genesis 2, something has happened to make the earth form without form. It's the fall of...
Something happened between those verses.
It's the fall of Lucifer, where God creates hell, and then the Luciferian flood comes to cool the earth down.
That's
it's all
exactly
sensible,
right.
man.
That's exactly right.
So if we can explain this to our kids, they're not going in stripped.
And there were civilizations that predated.
Totally. Can I tell you what I think right here?
I can take you to places all over the world.
Can I tell you on your podcast something I believe that I know people are going to say, what? My son and I have discussed this in detail, because my son's a genius. You really get with him, he's a genius. I believe when you read about Lucifer's fall, I will ascend into heaven. I will be like the Most High God. I will ascend into the sides of the north. And God said, no, you'll be brought down to the sides of it. I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. That was the rebellion, right? I believe that there was the original earth before Genesis 1 and 2, that was the Luciferian flood, the creation of hell. Hell was prepared for the devil and his angels. It says nothing about man, because man wasn't created then. I believe the angelic kingdom, this earth existed, and angels ruled this planet. And that's where you start getting later into the fallen angels and coming into the daughters of men.
Harry, it's exactly what I believe.
Really?
Absolutely.
And when Lucifer fell, he completely disrupted everything God had planned, because they were called sons of God.
They were.
I think it's B'nai Elohim, if I'm not mistaken, but they were called sons of God, right? And so wait a minute. So what's going on here? So God then says, I put trust in angels to be my son. I want a family. They failed. So now I'm going to make something in my image, after my likeness, to follow me and worship me. And that's where he makes Adam. And he puts mankind on the earth, body, soul, and spirit, in his image. He blows it. So he raises up Israel to be his son. Israel's called the son of God in Exodus. They mess up, worshiping a golden cow. So God says, now I'm going to go with my ultimate plan. I'm going to send the son that won't fail, and he's going to make a family for eternity. Woo! That's the gospel.
Perry, why should people get this book?
First of all, it's filled with things. If anybody's followed my ministry, let's say for many years or even recently, this has biblically researched content, historical content, some amazing stories they've never heard before. I do not rehash books, and you don't either. So if I say this is a new book, it's a new book, right? The biggest thing I see here is answering some very unusual questions that people have prophetically that is going to help them understand. The other is I love, when I start putting the protocols in, I said, this is it. Oh my goodness. And a protocol is, in this instance, protocols for flourishing would be instruction for flourishing. I don't want people to get hung up on the word, because that word's been used positively and negatively over the years. But I believe that it will help them. And the other thing that I really want them to see, because my son is going to become a great writer in the future. He's going to be very well known, and I'm not doing it for that reason. I know God's call in his life. It's incredible. He's going to be a good sci-fi writer too. I told you some stuff last night that's like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Just interesting reading. But I will say this. He almost died on me when the drug overdose. He almost died an alcoholic. God brought him out, gave him a gift, and I want people to see his gift in what he says the last 4 chapters.
Wow.
The Babel effect. He talks about transhumanism. And I want them to get acquainted with Jonathan Stone because he's the next person on the block.
I'm going to devour this book.
Well, you need to give me a report back when you read it.
Oh, I'll
know
you the texture. I'll call you.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you to you for being with me.
I need to be thanking you. I mean, just and what you've allowed us to do in your part of the world, all the time zones we're on, the YouTube channel, the books. I am absolutely thrilled. One of these days, I'm going to get over to where you live or where where your headquarters is there.
You're talking about Russia.
Yes. I'm going to get over there and I'm going to preach.
Well, I would love to.
I'll make you a promise. I don't ever promise to do something, and I'll bring my boy with me.
Okay.
And the time has to be right, and God always speaks to you when the time.
Well, I promise that when you're ready, we'll be waiting for you.
Thank you, and thank you to all the people that have let us share with.
Thank you for being with me and Perry, and please, please, please follow his ministry. I do. People often ask me, "Who do you listen to?" I listen to Perry every week, and I learn. I get a kick out of it. I just love everything about Perry Stone. And be sure to get his book, Children of the Apocalypse. Thank you.
Rick.
Thank you.